Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our November Mid-Market Tech Talk. Today, our panel is Tom, John, and Steve from TECA Data, and they're going to be talking about how MSPs can help grow your revenue and just help your business overall. If you have any questions throughout the talk, please just put them either in the chat window or the Q&A function. And then this session is being recorded, so afterwards we'll be uploading it to our YouTube page where you can see this session and also any of our previous talks. So with Roger, I will kick it off to you.
Thank you very much, Kat. I appreciate that. And hello to everyone who is attending with us, either right now or listening to us at a later point in time. We are lucky today because we've got Tom Fisher, John McGee, and Steve Shirley with us from TECA Data, and they are an MSP. And you know, the thing that's always interesting to me is, and I love hearing this, you know, there's always people that love to throw around terms and, you know, but you quickly discover when you start talking to them that they're not 100% sure that they can really explain the terms and acronyms that they're using. So it's actually really nice today that we have a real MSP with us, and you know, hopefully we can have a good discussion and find out, you know, exactly what's going on with them. And I guess with that said, I'd kick it off and ask the three of you, what is the MSP business like today?
Busy.
It's busy, right, John and Steve?
Yes.
We are very busy. It's actually a pretty exciting time for us. I think that the world has gotten more accustomed to the idea of cloud services, and whether it's hosting or disaster recovery as a service. And we're finding, you know, there's been resistance from that for however long this has been around, but it seems that particularly in the last couple of years, people are getting more used to the concept. They're maybe even recognizing that there can be more security in that. The skill set, particularly, we have a heavy focus on IBM in our environment, in our customer base, and a lot of their skill sets are aging out of the market, right? So they're anxious. They might be happy running the workloads on that platform, but it's, you know, it's hard to find the skill set to do that. So I think that we bring that in, and so what's it like right now? It's very busy, and we're happy to have it, but that would be it from my point of view.
Yeah, and do either of the other two of you have anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially recently, it seems like people are looking for ways to transfer whatever they're doing locally to the cloud, kind of one-to-one. So it leaves us, you know, oftentimes working with IBM to craft solutions, whether it's for disaster recovery or you know, a customized hosting offering to, you know, meet whatever needs they have locally. And that's where a lot of the business comes from. Is it's not a cookie cutter solution that we're working with. We really work with our partners and users to craft something that's going to actually meet their needs, which everyone seems to have their own special needs. So
that does not surprise me. Now you mentioned that you guys are working with IBM, and Tom, I believe you mentioned you do quite a bit with IBM I. How do the, you know, various IBM solutions work for your environment and for the business model that you've created?
Well, probably the emphasis, you know, of course, we do cover other areas. We run Hyper-V and VMware in our environments too, and provide services there. But I'd say the majority of our customers do, in fact, have IBM I or AIX workloads that we host or provide service for in various ways. And I mean, when it comes to the power systems, we love the scalability. We usually buy, systems with many cores in them, and so it's scalable for us, where we can add either AIX or IBM iOSs to those cores as we need, as we bring on customers. And we have by the way, we have a very wide range of customers. Some of them, only use a fraction of a processor. Some of them use a fraction of a core perhaps, and some of them might use 10 cores or something like that. So there's a wide range. So the scalability that power system brings, and then we do utilize IBM storage with those platforms, and that has just really opened up a lot of things for us in terms of mobility, redundancy. It's so easy to move a client from, we've got some clients that are still on a Power 8. We're going to move them to a Power 10. The actual logistical part of doing that is like sub 1 hour. Basically, we've got their volume on an IBM flash system. All I got to do is point that resource on the Power 10 to it, and away we go. I mean, it's a little more complicated in that, we got to make sure PTFs are updated, and we got to make sure we get license keys with a third-party application software. But I mean, how convenient is that that's the migration from a Power 8 to a Power 10 for somebody that might be in our environment. Sub 1 hour interruption to get them there. So the storage has really, really brought us to the next level in the things we can offer. Full system flash copy, the standard flash copy. And I can unpack that for any of you if you'd like, but there's just a wide variety of functionalities that we're able to provide now. That, and particularly in our SMB market, these are things that they wouldn't typically be doing, because most of those folks might have one core turned on, right? And they've probably got internal storage, and they just would not have access to these types of functionality. Safeguarded copy would be another thing, Roger, too, that we're able to bring to the table for customers that may not have that skill set or knowledge, or just might not be available to them, but that's something we can bring.
That's actually great to hear. I am a really big fan of safeguarded copy. I was jealous when the DS8000 group created it, and then when it was migrated to the Spectrum virtualized platform flash system, I was actually ecstatic, because, as you say, that is a unique differentiator, and it really amazes people to discover they don't actually have to go buy a bunch of other hardware to make this happen. It's just right there in the system. So I'm tickled to hear that that's one of the tools that you have available to them. I am curious about something. For the three of you, how did you end up here with TECA Data? What is your histories in the industry?
I feel like I want to dominate this whole, but I'll begin. Since I was, when we started in 2005, we had a sister company that was doing a lot of fulfillment, selling upgrades and disk and some small amount of services. And a lot of our customers would ask us, how, if I were to lose my AS400, how quickly could you get me another one, right? And then eventually that question came to, I just wish I had a system I could just recover to. And so like the light came on, it's like, well, that's a great idea. So we went out and we bought, I think, a Power 5 server, Roger. Back then in 2005, it was probably a Power 5 server. Put that in our data center, and we offered this service out to our customer base that said, bring your tapes in and you can run your workloads on our system here. It's kind of like this consortium, and it was just for our fulfillment business, it was just kind of a little something on the side that we did. It was working out nice. Our customers were very happy. We went the next step, and we would actually do the restores for them, since most end users don't typically know how to do a restore from tape, right? So we offered that service, and it didn't take long for us to say, this is the right business for us to be in. You know, our customers love us, and we actually kind of, for the most part, phased out the fulfillment aspects of it, and then you just grow from there. Like Steve had mentioned earlier, we're very flexible, and you know, customers have very specific needs. Some of them just need the infrastructure as a service. Some of them need platform as a service. Some of them need fully managed services. And there's just a long list of variables that come with it. And that just helped us grow into a company where for a while our emphasis was on disaster recovery as a service, where we were putting out an appliance that would attach to somebody's system, and they would do a full system backup, or I'm sorry, they would do a backup to that and replicate it to us. And now they don't have to bring their tapes into the data center anymore, Roger, right? We've got their backups there, and it's really easy to do the restore. So anyhow, I don't want to, that's kind of our humble beginnings, right? That started in 2005, and it's just grown exponentially from there.
Okay. See, that's always it. I love hearing how companies have ended up, you know, where they are, particularly, you know, you three are a great example where you have this business model that is obviously filling a gap out in the market. And, you know, what you're saying certainly resonates with me, because I've run into so many client opportunities where it's clear that their desire is up here and their skill set is down here. And, you know, an MSP makes so much sense. And you know, it's funny, I find myself in an awkward position sometimes because the sales guys have, you know, asked me to come in with them. It's like my suggestion is maybe not what the sales guy might want to hear. But I have to admit, I've been really pleased, you know, since coming to IBM in 2015, that more often than not, they clearly want to do what's best for the client, because nobody wants that call in the middle of the night that, hey, everything's gone, you know, to hell in a handbasket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we pushed above our capability. So, you know, I'm tickled. And, you know, you gentlemen mentioned something a little earlier in the chat about skilled employees. And I see this at client sites today, that it is tough for a lot of companies to find skilled talent for their IT group. You know, maybe they can find a storage admin, but they're having trouble with somebody to handle applications, or, you know, whatever it may be. I'm assuming that that's a perfect opportunity for TECA Data.
Yeah, it's actually a driving force into a lot of the success we've been having recently using some of the IBM tools. You know, for example, well, I don't know how familiar you are, or probably are, with you know, different software HA packages out there. They require an ongoing skill set to manage and maintain them. And it's, you know, what you touched on earlier, the barrier between what the customer, you know, should be doing, what they need to do, and what they're actually able to do. Skill set wise, you know, the flash system and storage replication has helped fill that gap for a large number of our customers who, you know, needed to have some type of close to HA level of protection for their environment, but they don't have somebody, you know, locally on there to administer that software, maintain everything, and that skill set just on hand. But, you know, IBM made the flash system solution so easy to implement and, you know, kind of maintain. It's been a breath of fresh air, really, with some of the offerings we're able to provide.
That's fantastic. I mean, I certainly like hearing that, and I really like hearing that, you know, TECA Data is able to utilize a lot of the IBM hardware and software within your MSP offerings. How do you? I mean, you know, if it's too detailed, don't worry. But how do you guys get clients to make that jump, in a lot of cases, from doing everything on-prem to suddenly using a managed service provider and maybe going cloud-based? because I've seen the just rampant paranoia that exists with some, clients, and yet you just know it's what they need to really achieve what they need to accomplish within their own enterprise.
A lot of them is we just have to kind of lead them to it. We have more and more customers who started with doing, cloud backup and disaster recovery with us. Being, they're going to keep everything on-prem. They want to have everything locally so they can be in control of it. But what they find is, we'll do a DR test and we'll, simulate and have them run off of our environment for, a week or two, just to actually have a good game plan in place. But what that does is it opens their eyes to, we can actually run in the cloud. We can actually do this, and, the world's not going to end. So when it comes to, refresh their new power system or stuff like that, we're just finding they're more open to that conversation once they've already, just dip their toe into different cloud offerings or running their IBM system in the cloud. Well, let's look at a hosted solution there as opposed to getting a new Power 10 system. They're just now more open to that conversation.
Okay. Again, I mean, it's music to my ears. And, one of the things I have enjoyed before I came to IBM, I originally, when I got into storage in 2001, I was with LSI Logic, and we were an OEM manufacturer creating storage systems that we sold to IBM. And we were ultimately acquired by NetApp 10 years later. And NetApp was OEMing some solutions, as well as IBM creating their own solutions. But, I had a chance, I guess, from 2001 forward to work hand in hand with IBM and then ultimately go to work for IBM. And I've really enjoyed seeing how much IBM relies on our business partners, those sellers that are out there in the community that have a lot of tools and a lot of vendors at their disposal. When I first came to IBM, I think the number was like 80 or 85% of all sales were through business partners. How do you guys, how does TECA Data pull in? Because I assume that not only do you work with just clients, ultimate end-using clients, but I'm guessing you also have your own business partners that you work with. How does that work, and how do you draw them in? How do you stand out from the crowd?
That's great, Roger. I'm glad you brought that up, and thank you for that, because I talked about how when we started in 2005, we had that customer base for whom we were doing fulfillment. But once we had saturated that market, I'm no marketing genius. We're not marketing geniuses here at TECA. The line of least resistance was to work with business partners, because they, just like our fulfillment company, had those and have those relationships with customers who've come to trust them. And when those business partners come to trust us, that they can convey that to their customers. And so we work, I don't think it's a stretch, John or Steve, to say probably I'd say at least 90% of our customer base now are through business partners. So we really have relied on that. And it makes it, I'm not even all that familiar with some of our competition sometimes, because we're working with business partners who have a loyal customer base. And when they bring us in, and if I may be so bold, I mean, we know what we're doing, and they find that out from talking to us pretty quickly. And it seems that we move forward with those transactions pretty regularly. And so we really rely heavily on working with business partners. And some of them might be writing software, some of them might be doing fulfillment, like what our sister company used to do. There might be various types of business partners that we have, but that is a really key component of our channel and a really key component of our growth.
And I think what we see also is that they're often looking for somebody to provide something specifically that's going to be appealing to their customers. And the offerings that we've been able to craft are something that you just can't flip a switch and be able to provide yourself overnight. And so we are able to, kind of be the back end for them, administer everything. So we're actually somebody who they're going to be able to trust and work with, and we're not going to, drop the ball when it comes to their users. And, that type of expertise and skill set and building the trust with them just it pays off in the end. And I think that's why we get a lot of additional, word of mouth recommendations to work with us.
That's great. And I hesitate to bring this up because, they always say don't ask a question you don't know the answer to ahead of time. But how are you? Well, let me preface this and just say trouble rolls downhill. It's always rolled downhill, and you don't want to be standing at the bottom of the hill. And, starting with COVID really opened a lot of people's eyes to just big issues that exist, supply chain issues and lead time problems and that kind of thing. How do you guys deal with that? Because, I know just as IBM, it's always a concern of ours, just dealing with one end user or one business partner. But here you are dealing then with multiple business partners who may have multiple clients, and it all comes down to you. So how does TECA Data handle this?
Another good question, and it certainly is a challenge in this world. John, didn't we have I think it was a Netgear brand switch that was on back order for almost a year?
10 months. 10 months.
10 months, yeah.
But I have to say that hasn't been an issue with IBM. You guys have been amazing. I don't know about your guys' supply chains, but that has not been an issue for us with IBM. Well, not for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting for the shoe to drop, Roger, right? Because I've grown quite a bit. And it seems like every other month, my team is coming saying, we need more storage. I'm like, we just bought 300 terabyte of storage. And how can that be? But, and thank goodness, IBM has been able to deliver. And I think we get to take some credit that we haven't bumped our heads on the ceiling yet. We keep it high enough, right? Between systems and between storage that we haven't, and John gets some credit for that, for coming to me in advance and saying, looks like we're gonna have to start thinking about this. And we managed well with the IBM products. But yeah, when it comes to, the Intel or the x86 servers and so on, it's a longer lead time in those areas, and we just try to stay ahead of it as much as we can. But it's a challenge, but knock on wood, have not ever heads on the ceiling yet. So.
Well, and I'm super glad to hear that. The reason that came up was that a year ago in the fourth quarter, I know IBM put out this thing saying, hey, if you buy in the fourth quarter, you will get it before the end of the year. We will not change the price on it. And that was a huge success. And then as they moved into the first quarter, it was like, suddenly it got a little tighter. But my understanding is that they've done that again for this fourth quarter and said, we will have it. So I agree with you. Kudos to the supply chain folks at IBM. I don't know how they pulled this off, but I'm glad to hear that it's working for you guys. Now, one of the things, I guess, you've mentioned IBM I, a couple of times. Clearly, you're using a lot of power-based hardware in here. Is that one of the things that's really differentiating you from your competition, or are there other things that are helping TECA Data stand out and really differentiate yourself from other MSPs?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be or we could start with one of the differentiators is that we have that wide breadth of skill set on the IBMI. And of course, if you're going to bring your IBM to the cloud, or if we're going to do IBMI disaster recovery as a service, you still might have critical applications running in VMware, what have you, right? So we cover that whole breadth of those, right? And I think that, I mean, not that we're the only company doing it, but I think that's a bit more unique, and that is a niche that helps us stand out. And then, of course, I could go on about how proud and happy I am with people in our company and what we do, how responsive we are, and we're small enough that we deliver, I think, a level of attention and service and responsiveness is not always there, perhaps with a larger company, and I think that really helps a lot. As we are no marketing geniuses at our company, and yet we are growing, very fast, and it's because of those things and what we deliver and what we do, and it's word of mouth, and that's where that comes from. So anyhow.
Also, I think it boils down to customers want to have one throat to throttle or strangle if there's an issue. So we find that it's like Tom said, people start doing disaster recovery with us for their IBM side, and then instead of working with another company, they want to wrap in their Windows environment and do comprehensive testing of both platforms on the same network. And it's something that people are just becoming more aware of, and just helping facilitate the growth that way.
Yeah, and along the lines of
yeah.
We offer, one thing I've heard from many of our customers is we're actually offering DR solutions that they can test. I mean, we've worked with customers that have been paying for DR solutions for years, but have never been able to do a DR test, a real DR test. And that's one thing I hear frequently, how easy we make it for them. They're just like blown away. And kind of like Steve said earlier, first they're just doing like kind of a really small DR test and like, oh, wow, you could bring the system up in the cloud. Great. Next time we want to actually try to use it, then they'll do that. Next thing you know, they're talking about hosting because everything went so well. And they're like, why are we bothering with all this stuff when these guys have all the skills and are able to, deliver? So.
Well, and John, I'll tell you what, that all by itself, if there was nothing else, that is, you can't see it, but I have huge goosebumps right now because that is such an important factor. I can't tell you, well, you guys know it. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a client, talked to them about DR and just business continuance, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a system, and it's like, oh, fantastic. How did your last testing go? They just all look at each other. And it's amazing how many clients never test their DR because they're scared to death of it. So I absolutely could see where an MSP like yourselves could be a godsend, particularly to smaller enterprises or just enterprises that can't find the technical staff that they really need, because having a great DR system doesn't mean anything if you never test it. So exactly. I'm tickled to hear you guys are actually able to do that with them. That alone I could see would get you, a lot of clients. And it kind of along that line, because you guys tend to have a lot of power-based infrastructure, I'm imagining that security is a big thing for you guys, that you're able to promote a much more robust, solid security message and be able to actually demonstrate that to clients than, somebody that may just be on a whole lot of x86.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually came from aerospace, and I've seen a huge shift where, back just a few years ago, people are like, oh, we can't go to the cloud. It's not secure. It's not secure. Well, all these like requirements like NIST and HIPAA and PCI have been flown down to them. And it's just like mind-boggling. And then they see us and they see they can check off a lot of those boxes because, you know, we have the intrusion prevention systems, we have, you know, safeguarded copy and immutable storage and all these things, encryption at rest, encryption trans, all these things that they need, you know, to figure out that we've already, you know, figured out for them. So, you know, during their audits, you know, it helps them. There's a big chunk of those things are taken care of, just by being with us. So, and as Tom always says, economies of scale, these things can be very expensive, intrusion prevention systems and, you know, multiple layers of antivirus and you know, botnet protection, distributed denial of service protection. Well, these are all things we have in place, and, you know, whereas one company, that'd be a huge spend for them. You know, we already have it in place, and everybody that's with us gets to take advantage of the security features. So yeah, it's a big win for them, for a lot of them, for a lot of our customers.
That's great. Shame on me for not really even thinking about that. That you're absolutely right. Since you guys have got it, it's easy for somebody like myself to come along and say, hey, I want to take advantage of what you're already doing. That's pretty slick. And, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned not only data at rest, but data in flight. And it's one of the cool things. I have to admit, prior to coming to IBM, I'd never really looked into power much. And that was quite an eye-opener to see how robust and how secure power is. And, you know, especially when I've watched friends bringing up a Windows server and in the process of doing it, had it be infected. So, which power takes great steps to avoid. So, very, very good. Well, amazingly, we've already spent a half an hour chatting. Let me just ask the three of you, is there anything you'd like to bring up or say? I mean, I'm super grateful that you've taken the time to spend with us. And, you know, I like that obviously that you're using IBM hardware, but, you know, for the folks that may be listening or will be listening, is there anything you'd like to say to them?
I'm waiting for my technical sales to speak up. Well, I will say this though, particularly and this isn't a sales pitch. This is a sales pitch for IBM. I just want to say that only in the last 4 years have we really gotten heavily into flash systems, storage systems, and IBM has been so good at helping us get our feet under us. They've been responsive, and we've come a long ways in our organization in utilizing that platform. And I just want to say that whole crew that we've worked with, they have been absolutely fantastic, and they continue to be. And so that's been a big help for us. But yeah, Steve, it looks like you might want to say something.
I was going to say, yeah, on that line, so yeah, essentially the people we've worked with at IBM have been instrumental in helping us actually craft these new services and offerings that have been really appealing. So it's good to have a skilled knowledge base that we can turn to, that we can, you know, help further increase our knowledge, but also, you know, reliable hardware that we can use to implement these service offerings. So it's been a really good, exciting last couple of years here working with these systems.
Excellent. And John, was there anything you would care to add?
No, I'll echo what Tom and Steve said. IBM has been fantastic to work with. You guys have a great team. You know, hats off to your supply chain. You guys are heads above everybody else. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our continuing partnership.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, gentlemen, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to us. I think what you're doing is fascinating. and particularly that you've identified some really nice differentiation and some niches to go into that don't have a million billion people fighting for that same client set. And clearly you have the technical expertise necessary. So yeah, I would mirror what you just said, John. I would look forward to a nice long continued relationship with TECA Data. So gentlemen, thank you again for the time, and thank you everyone for tuning in and listening.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.